and a method whatever we have in other classes, then declaring an object and using it. That's my understanding.
Okay, that is also correct. And one more important point is like we have to use extents. We have to keep it in mind. Uh, in most of the scenarios, or maybe in 60-70% scenarios, what we are going to do is this only: initializing an object in real time world also. But where extends is used is if you want to really combine two properties together, right? Where the two property roles is to be combining together, and we are going to mainly use all the methods every time in that extending class or in the child class. For example, if we design our automation framework and all, right, what we'll do, most probably we'll have some two approaches of extending the class. In auto, generally we create test automation frameworks. What happens is like we create some class which has some generic methods like clicking, selecting, or copying the text, or getting the text from a particular element, or waiting for the particular element to load. These are the general Selenium methods, or right, for people who are not aware of Selenium, like these are the methods which we use to perform action over the element, right? For example, if I want to click some element, it's not direct click which we see in generic Selenium terms. We have to do some checks and all. We have to check if the element is there or not. We have to check for stale element exception. uh, so all these checks has to be done, then only we can go and safely click the particular button, otherwise it will lead to exception, right? So I cannot go and write each and every steps individually for each and every click, because when we are going to automate a web browser, we are going to do a lot of clicks. So why can't we have some generic method that can be used across our entire project? That makes sense, right? So this kind of clicking, getting text, hovering over the element, or waiting for the element, will all have this as a generic methods. And business logic we will write for our test automation code, right? That business logic class will extend this particular generic method classes. Most probable most use cases is in test automation framework of extends keyword is this. And where we'll use this orchestration, in every business logic class I need to have a driver instance, right? Driver dot find element, driver dot click, we'll have this driver instance initialized, right? So I can declare a driver above the class like this, and whatever business logic I write here I can do here. I can declare a driver here. I can do some driver dot something inside our business methods. So in those kind of scenarios, orchestration is used, right? It doesn't make sense to have our driver object in our as a parent class. It doesn't make sense, because only driver initialization we are going to do with only one step, right? Like if we declare driver is equal to new Chrome driver, right? Or one other additional step depending upon environment. So only for these things I don't have to use uh, a parent class and extend from the child class. You can directly declare a driver instance like this, and you can use it over the class. So am I making sense here?
Yeah, Karthik. One other question. When you use the term called orchestration, okay, can you elaborate why you have used with respect to the object creation?
No, we call that as orchestration. That's it. There should be some term to call that. Object creation, in the sense, we are using this particular automobile object inside another object, custom object. Both are customly created object. It is also a class. Automobile is also a class, right? So if we are going to test it out, what we are going to do, if we are any method which we want to, which we are declaring here, like public void some random method, right? What we'll do, we'll create some instant of this test class, right? So I'll say t dot. So what is happening, this is also a class which we created. Automobile is also a class which we created. But when we are going to use one class or object inside another class, we call that as orchestration. That's it. That's a term for defining that.
Okay, thank you.
Karthik, I just think this is not clear, like why we are using an extend keyword and why we are initializing the class.
Mhm.
Like for the driver keyword, no, you just told us.
Okay. No, I wanted to repeat, or what were you asking?
Repeat that thing. Well, that thing is not clear.
Okay. See, for example, okay, let me quickly create one package, and I don't have Selenium installed, but I'll just quickly show what I meant by that. Quickly create a package. So let's say I have a package called Selenium. So I have a class called generic methods. So what I'll do, I'll just write some logic here, so that we are going to perform some actions in the web browser, right? By clicking some element or waiting for some element. That's how Selenium works. Selenium is kind of automating the browser actions that we do. That is Selenium, right? So what we'll do, we'll just say we'll initialize some driver here. Okay. Uh, Assume that the driver class is there. It is actually not there because we don't have Selenium dependency, right? This driver is from Java SQL. It's not the Selenium driver. So assume that some driver is there here, and I'm having this constructor here, which gets driver as an argument. And I'm saying this dot driver is equal to driver. Okay, now this is done. So I will have some method called, let's say, okay, click element. Uh, what I will do is like I will just say driver dot find element by ID and dot click, right? This is how Selenium works. So before doing this code, what I will do, I'll just write some code here. I'll just wait for that element. Okay, I will not write actual code, just write the command. I'll just wait for the element and check if element loads. I'll have all the code like this. Then what I'll do, I will just find that element, uh, and I will just click on that element, right? So if we write this as a generic method, then it is usable across our project, so where we can just call this method itself, right? So similarly, I can have one more method for let's say getting the text. Its return type is string, right? Getting text, right? From some element. So similarly, I'll do these checks. Now I'll say driver dot some find element some using something I'll find some, let's say by ID itself. I'll just say get text. Okay, I'll just return this entire thing. It will return some string for me. So what I'll do, this is kind of two general examples. I'll have some 15-20 methods of generic examples like this. So whenever in our business class, what I will do, I'll just create a new class. Let's say it's a login class. Here what I can do, I can just extend this generic method, right? So what I can do in the login class is like I can just initialize a driver through orchestration. I can get in the constructor and initialize it. Right. Let's say I have some login method here. So what I will do here, I'll just load that particular driver.get. I will say I'll just load that URL, some random URL. Some random URL like this. And what I will do, I'll just find some element. I just wanted to, what we'll has generic methods, we'll have this click element and all, right? So what I will do, I'll just find element. We can, there's a class called web element in Selenium. I just can find the element like this. Driver dot find element something like this, and by ID again. So what I can do, instead of directly say element dot click, I have to do some checks, right? These are generic checks, steps which are needed for every click. I can just pass this element through to this particular element, call this method, and I can just do all the checks randomly here, right? For example, maybe I can pass this web element as an argument itself. So what I will do, I'll just call that method here, the generic methods method here, click element. I just pass this element here and it will click over the web page. Why we are having this as a generic method is like because this particular login class may contain so many business logics where we have to click so many buttons. Every time I don't have to do all these checks. It's wise to keep this as a generic method and extend this class, and whenever you want to use, I just can pass this and make the element clickable. So not only for click, I can get text and I can wait for element, I can select a list, I can click a checkbox, radio button, anything. So if we write this as a generic methods and extend this class, we it is good, right? Because only login class is not going to extend. There may be some other class to validate the home page, and maybe some other class to extend the validate the contact us page, some other class to do some API call. If everything extends this generic method, it makes sense. No.
So you mean to say the calling methods would be in one class, and the class which we are extending would be containing a business logic.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
So when I say business logic, this business logic will be contained in this login class. We are getting it right. These are the actions which we are going to take over the elements on that particular page. That is the difference. Anchal, is that okay?
Yeah, this is clear, Karthik.
I think Karthik, you can also, we can say with, we can quote other example, right? When we were using for the Selenium, right, we used for the uh, browser instantiation and the browser closing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those will be generic, right?
Yes, you can do that as well. But generally, we do via framework, right? Whenever we initiate the browser or quit the browser, we do with some annotations called at before and at after.
No, no,
Uh,
I meant to say,
yeah,
like,
got it. Yes.
make everyone understand. Okay,
Fine.
uh, those two things will be like opening the browser and closing the browser will be the common for every business logic, like every task we've been working, any test or something.
Mm.
Those two things will be generic, so we'll be writing in some other class, extending those into the main class, the actual class, so that we don't need to repeat those methods and again and again.
Yes.
So that would be easy to understand. So
Okay, I can have something like this as well. As Shiva said, I can just initiate this driver here. Driver is equal to new Chrome driver. Or I can just quit the driver. Generally, we have two methods. In almost all the frameworks, you will find the two methods called startup method and the tear down method. So in startup method, we'll do all the initializing of the reports or those things. But in tear down method, we'll quit the browser and we'll save all the remaining things, close all the remaining instance, something like that. So this is also possible. But okay, this is also possible. We can start and quit the driver like this. But one thing I wanted to highlight is like we don't every time do this. Almost 90 of the times we don't do this. Um, but it is possible. We do with something called hooks to create a driver instance and quit the driver instance. We'll see what is hooks and all later. But it is possible. We can do like this also. Create a driver instance, quit the driver instance by maybe whatever login class we are extending that we can call that. We can call the business logics and we can quit the driver as well.
So Karthik, where are we initializing object of the class here, like the term abstraction you have used?
Orchestration.
Yeah.
So we are declaring the driver instance like here. Right? This is orchestration. We are
Oh,
getting the value from the constructor, passing that to this driver instance. That is orchestration.
okay. Okay. So the driver would be one class which we have not created as of now,
Actually,
right?
driver is an interface actually. So
Okay.
what we do when we say like Chrome driver, it will assign this Chrome driver instance to this driver object,
Okay.
right? So why I call this orchestration is because we are not extending the class like this to use those objects and methods. Driver is
Hmm.
a interface. It will have some method declarations which meaning is given through this Chrome driver class. We'll see interface later, but understand that this meaning of definitions of these methods are given in this Chrome driver class. So what happens is like I'm not extending this driver interface or a Chrome driver class. What I'm just doing, I'm just declaring it as an object inside this class. So only we call that as orchestration. We call this inheritance because we are extending these generic methods and we are using the methods available in the generic methods class.
Okay, Karthik.
No, I think you still not clear. Anything you can clarify now only.
No,
I think it's clear, but when I'll be doing a practical thing, then only it will make
Okay.
things more clear.
There are only two ways, or generally there are two ways to access class methods, right?
Hmm.
That is one point which I wanted to highlight. How you can access one class method into another, either by creating an object for that class like this, or by extending the class.
Extending the class.
Yeah.
Hmm.
If I create an object for the class, then I'm able to use those methods, right? Get method.
Yeah.
Get is a method which is available inside the driver interface.
Driver.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm able to use the methods like this by initializing like this. I'm also able to use the methods of click element like this by extending the generic methods class.
Hmm.
It's two way of using the other classes inside our class, right?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to emphasize is like there are areas which we have to take care, so that we have to be careful every time we should not extend another class. Generally this it is preferable. Extending is preferable only in certain areas where you reuse all the methods every time from the parent class. If that is a scenario only, then we have to go for this inheritance concept.
Got it, Karthik.
Maybe if you do something, you'll get a better idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's quickly close this. So we saw two types of inheritance until now. Single inheritance, where one class is extending another class and using all its methods, which are public and protected, and using all its objects which are public and protected, right? And we also saw what is the use of this super keyword to initialize the base class uh, a constructor like this, or calling a base class object like this, or calling a base class methods. We also saw that, right? What I'll do, this is called single inheritance. But what is an hierarchical inheritance? Hierarchical is something like we have two classes extending the same class, right? What I mean by that is like we also saw that example, right? We have an engineering employee class which is also extending the employee class. We have marketing employee which is also extending the employee class. In test class, what we did, we created object for two of the things also, right? Employee. So we did like this. Even though we are creating an object for this employee class, these are two different implementations. Engineering employees to one different implementation, marketing employees another different implementation. Why we call that implementation? Even though we have this method print employee details, based on the definition given in each and every class, by overriding it, we can give a new definition, right? So that's called method overriding. Also, what's a method overriding and runtime polymorphism, right? So that's called hierarchical inheritance. I can even go and create a number of classes like this: sales employee or support employee. I can create a number of classes like this. I can extend the employee class and do the same thing which I've done previously for engineering and marketing employee. So today, what we are going to see is something called multi-level inheritance. Right? So what's a multi-level inheritance? We saw previously, right? Whatever example we saw is single. One class is extending another class, or this one hierarchical. One class is there are two classes which are extending the same class. So this is called multi-level inheritance. I have this class A parent class, master parent class. I have this class B which is extending class C. I have this class C which is extending class B. This is also possible. I can go on and on. I can have class D which is extending class C. So I can go on, right? So what I will do, I'll just do that with a quick example. We'll delete this. We'll delete all these things, unnoted things. Okay. I think we can. So now what I'm having, I have this employee class, I have this engineering employee. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create one more class called skills, right? So in this skills class, what I will do, I'll just get only one argument. What is the skill of that engineering employee, right? Now let's say we'll go to engineering employee class. Okay, let us delete this default constructor. This is a default constructor, right? Without any anything, any arguments, or no argument constructor we call it, right? So what we'll do, where is that skills? Okay, we'll try to extend this engineering employee. So once we do this, what it is asking, it is immediately asking us to create a constructor, otherwise it is throwing an error. Okay. Why it is doing that? Because if we don't have a default constructor declared, explicitly declared like this, like we have in our engineering employee class, every time it will have to, it will what to say, force us to create an constructor, because we have a constructor of arguments like this. Okay. For otherwise, if we have a default constructor like we did before, like that error will go. Now that error is gone, right? So if you have an explicit constructor which is defined in your parent class, our Java will force us to declare the constructor here as well. Right? Why this particular thing is not forcing us now? Because it will implicitly call the default constructor. Our JVM, what it will do, while creating the dot class file, it will create it will add this default constructor calling. What I mean by that is, like, it will have this constructor for the skills class like this, and it will just say super without any arguments. So it will add this particular code at the runtime, which we will not see, we will not be able to see. Only because our IDE is doing that and Eclipse is adding these things and creating the class file, we're not seeing any error like this. Otherwise, if you don't have this particular thing declared, default constructor declared, then this doesn't make any sense, because we cannot call a no argument constructor which doesn't exist, right? We are overriding a constructor by defining some explicit meaning for giving, by giving arguments and all. Getting the whole point, right? So this doesn't make any sense. Now our Java will force us to create a constructor which is compatible to this. For example, if we go by the creating a constructor by the IDE suggestion, right? Add constructor, if we do, now what it is doing, it is creating a constructor automatically for 4 arguments, right? We'll put this on the top. Sorry. We'll cut this and put this in the bottom. So now what it is doing, it is creating a constructor with 4 arguments. How it is knowing the 4 arguments? It is getting from the superclass engineering employee, right? Engineering employee has 4 argument constructor. It is creating the same for us in the skills class. Why? Because we are extending that engineering employee. And what it is doing? It is doing the super, right? We are calling the base class constructor, and we are going to set those values in the engineering employee by calling this particular whatever value we got from these arguments in the skills constructor. So what I can do, I can add one more arguments like this. I can just say this dot skill equal to skill, right? I can have some object declared for explicitly for the skills class. I can assign this like this. So we are getting the whole point, right, everyone?
So Karthik, you meant to say when we extend some other class, uh, so the either it goes and sees for the default constructor. If there is no default constructor, if we have parameterized constructor, then it definitely should be declared as an parameterized constructor, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So now if you see the hierarchy of this, I have this employee class, engineering employee is extending this employee class. I have this skills class, which is extending this engineering employee. So basically I have some kind of structure like this, right? Multi-level inheritance. So now what we can do is like, we'll test this out. Just give me a second. We'll test this out. What we can do, we can create 3 different classes like this also, right? I can go and create employee emp is equal to new employee. This is possible. I can create something like this also. Engineering employee. So when I
So
do this,
Karthik,
uh-huh.
yeah, I have a small question here.
Okay.
Like Java only supports multi-level inheritance in class levels, but
Yes. Okay.
I can inherit multiple interfaces also in Java. So is that also multi-level inheritance, or it is multiple inheritance?
No, it is also
Class
multi-level
can
only.
inherit multiple interfaces.
We can implement the see, there is something called multiple inheritance, which we'll be seeing it shortly, which is not supported in Java, because you have the 2 different classes and only one child class is going to extend 2 different classes. It will create some ambiguity, right? Which method to call and all. But when in the case of interface, we clearly know which interface is defined in which method. We clearly know, right? We can go and implement 2-3 interfaces. I cannot go and say this engineer extends this employee and extends one more class, right? Some random. I cannot go and say this, but while implementing an interface, I can go and implement n number of interfaces, because interface doesn't give you that ambiguity which multiple inheritance gives for us.
Okay.
We don't call that as a multiple inheritance. We call that as implementing multiple interfaces. We use that term because we don't anywhere support multiple inheritance in Java. We call that as implementing multiple inheritance. So only we use extends keyword, because that name itself makes sense that we are extending this employee class into another class called engineering employee. But why we are using implements keyword for inheritance? Because you are implementing something whose definition is not at all given in the parent interface, right? The definition itself is given in the class which is implementing that interface, so there is no ambiguity.
Yeah.
So we don't call that as multiple inheritance.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. people will touch this multiple inheritance interface in the coming classes, so nothing to worry. Okay, for time being, we'll test this. So why this, while creating the object for this engineering employee, why this is enforcing all these four arguments to be passed as in the constructor? Because we don't have a default constructor, right? Because of that. What I'll do, I just create some role tester. Years of experience, some 7, employee ID 1, employee name. Let's say Anamika. Right. And I can do similar thing for the skills as well. Again, I have to pass these roles, right? Role, let's say it's a developer, or 3, employee ID 4, employee name. Let's say Java. Sorry. So now I can do like this also. I can create a separate objects for each and every class like this, or I can do something like this also. I can say employee new employee. Can say new engineering employee also, right? I can pass a role here. Something like this. I can do this. We saw this example, right? How we are achieving this, calling extents. I mean derived class constructor. Even though we create an object for the base class constructor, I can do something like this also. Is giving some random number here, empty string for time being. So I can do something like this also, and I can do something like this also. I can declare an engineering employee. So multiple ways it is possible, right? Well, because we are extending the skills from engineering employee, and we are extending this engineering employee from employee. So multiple ways of creating an object is now possible, right? So what happens when we do something like this? Let's no, until now everyone is clear, right? Why we are able to do something like this?
Karthik,
Yes, Shiva.
I have a doubt here. We are inheriting, like, like multi-level inheritance, right? So the skills class also has the features of engineering employee and employee, right?
Yes, right.
Okay. And here, while creating an object of it, can we create an object of the class for skills, and we can still access the engineering employee and employee, right?
Yes, we can.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, we
Correct
can.
me if I'm wrong, but we can do it, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So when I say we have the skill object here, only skills we are declaring, right? So when I say skill dot, so we are able to access this employee thing also, right? You can see this employee is of type employee, and this years of experience is of type engineering employee, and the skill is of type skills. So all the three access is now there for me. This was your question, right, Shiva?
Yeah, that was, yeah, thanks for clarifying.
Okay. So now what can happen? I can have multiple possibilities like this. So in skills, let's say I have a same method as this print employee. Right. I'll just say the skill details. I'll just append the skill which we declared here, right? We'll test this out. What I'm going to do, we are just going to use this object, right? I'm just going to create some name here. Let's say marketer, years of experience, let's say 516, and name is marketer name, and skill is marketing. Let's do something like this. Skill employee dot print employee details, right? If we try to run this, so it is calling the particular method which are available in the skill class only, right? Because we are overrided this employee method, print employee details, in the skill class. It's a typical example of polymorphism, dynamic binding we saw, right? So that is also there. And what we can do is like, I just wanted to show one more thing. Let's say I have some random method like here in the top class, parent class, public void. Let's say the method name is top parent. We leave this empty for now. And I'll just say public void second parent. Right? We'll leave this empty for now. In the skills class, for example, if I wanted to access this top parent method, then it is accessible. If I wanted to access the second parent method, then that is also accessible. I can directly call this methods. And if I declare this as protected, then also it is possible to call this method even though this top parent is available in the parent's parent, right? This immediate parent is engineering employee and this immediate parent is employee. Even though it is protected is kind of method or variable declaration which can be used across the inheriting class. So that's a thing which I wanted to emphasize. I can just go and call this method even though it is protected, even though it's kind of a parent to a parent. I can go and call like this also. Only if it is a private, then it will throw an error. Throwing an error, right? So now it's not visible. I cannot go and call. Same goes for here also. Protected is applicable. There are no errors. And if it is private, then there is error. Right? What if we don't declare anything at all? Then there are no errors, right? So if we don't declare any access modifier, then its scope is called default. There is something called default scope. Default scope is something which is limited to the particular package. Right? So that's called default scope. In default scope also, you can go and access these things inside our inheriting class. So that is also possible.
Karthik, when you run this class, we have got the output in the console as the child constructors as the child constructor is 6 times. From where does this is a
Okay.
child class constructor.
Mhm.
So
Now,
from
why
where
we are
are we
getting?
getting?
No, we are calling every time this constructor, right? Here we are calling the constructor. Here we are
Okay.
everything is called in the main method, right? For example, let's go one by one. We are calling this employee constructor first, right?
Yeah, right.
There's nothing in the employee constructor. Okay, for some sake, let's call this as engineering class constructor. Right? So in this test, there's nothing in employee. Now we are calling this engineering employee class. Then the constructor will be called for the engineering employee, right? First time it is being called. Now this statement is executed one time, right? Because this constructor is called.
Got it.
Okay. Second time, what is happening? We are calling this skills, right? The skills class has the super keyword, which will in turn call this engineering employee constructor, right? Second time it's
Right.
called,
Right.
and third time again we are calling here. Fourth time through the skills. Fifth time also through the skills. So only it's printing 5 times, right? If we
Okay.
again, it is going to print 5 times, right? Engineering class constructor only is printing. Because of this only, it's printing 5 times. Getting it right?
Yeah, got it.
Yes. So any other thing with respect to this?
No, I think it's clear.
Okay. What about others?
Yeah, it's clear for to me.
Okay. So one final thing which I wanted to show, as previously Sagar also asked that question, right? I cannot do something like this. I cannot extend the skills like this engineering employee and marketing employee, right? Even though I have this marketing employee class, I cannot do this. Java will not permit because it bans, it violates this concept, right? There's something called multiple inheritance. We'll see like why we cannot do this maybe tomorrow. And even this is a classic case of multiple inheritance, right? Even though this top level is hierarchical, level 1 and 2 we call it as hierarchical. Once this level 3 comes, it is going to extend these two classes, which is not supported by Java. Then again it becomes multiple inheritance, so it's not supported. This kind of extending the two classes is not supported by Java. It will throw compile time error itself. Either you can do an engineering employee or marketing employee. Either one thing is possible. So that is also one of the important thing which I wanted to highlight here. So if anyone has any other questions.
Karthik, can you just move to the engineering employee class? I just want to know the skill details are marketing, the value of the marketing of the skill, where it is coming from.
I'm hard coding here, right? Marketing.
Okay.
So what happens here? Okay, let's delete all, maybe comment all these things. Sorry. Assume that only this line is there to execute. So what it is doing, we are creating an object for employee, but we are calling the constructor for the skills. Now 5 things are assigned, right? What is let's go to the skills. What are is assigned? Role is assigned, years of experience, employee ID, employee name, and skill, right? So we are giving all these 5 values inside this constructor itself. Role is for marketer, name is maybe we just give it as name itself, name. Years of experience is 5, employee ID is 6, and his skill is marketing, right? Now what will happen, this constructor is called, and this constructor will in turn call the super constructor, right?
Yeah.
skill is set at here in the skill class through this dot skill is equal skill, and it will call the super. If we go to super, again the role, years of experience, employee ID, employee name is there. Role and years of experience is set at here in the engineering employee class itself. Again it will call super. In this super, it will go to employee class and it will set this employee ID and employee name in the employee class here through this constructor. Now everything is set by just by calling this only one constructor. Engineering employee values are set, employee values are set just by calling this constructor because of usage of super keyword. Now it's very easy and convenient, right? So only we use super constructor, super keyword. Everything is set. If you print employee details class, due to method overriding, this particular method will be called, and whatever here it will be executed. Now skill is what we have set it as marketing. Now that is only going to be printed, right?
Yeah.
So marketing is printed, right?
Clear.
Clear, right, Anshul? Okay. Others? So if okay, if no one has any other question, can we wrap up the session? Most of the important concepts are covered. Maybe we'll touch and go a little bit about multiple inheritance and different type of inner classes tomorrow, and we'll start with the other concepts.
Clear, Karthik.
Okay. What about others? Can others post it in the chat?
Clear to me.
Okay. Okay, then we'll share this recording. We'll meet tomorrow, right?
Okay, thanks, God.